There we go. Thank you, Tony, for that alert. And thank you for chiming in there. So, guys, last week on Friday, we talked about playing the role. On winning roles today, we are going to talk about the winning role of master closing caller or closing call expert or closing call specialist. That's a very important role in your life. If you can play that role effectively, master closing caller or closing call expert, you will make a lot of money in real estate. Okay, so that's the key. Now, last Friday, I gave you the scripts. Every role requires two things, requires the steps and the scripts. So you need to know the steps on a closing call. There are definite steps from the very first hello to the very end, great, I'll see you at the house. So there's a lot of steps in the middle. You got to follow the steps, and the key is the scripts. So last Friday, I gave you the script. Every role has steps and scripts to it. So with master closing caller, I gave you the scripts for negotiating the 4 Pretty House deal points: purchase price, monthly payment, length of term, and down payment. So now you know what to say, but there are different roles you're going to play. So again, if you go into this call and you say, well, I'm just going to be a deal maker, that's going to be my thing, I'm just going to go into this call, I'm a great negotiator, I'm a top negotiator, that's the role I'm going to play. Well, that works up to a certain point, but you're going to come off like a used car salesman in the beginning if you just start negotiating right away. If you start saying, okay, well, now let's do this, and I think the house is good, but I think we're going to make a great deal, and you have to build up to that. Okay, build up to that negotiating point. So here's what I want you to think about: the roles that you play within a role. It's always complex roles and complex action steps, and a closing call is a complex action step. It's not, cleaning up the dog poop in the yard. They're your luxury homeowner, okay? You're proud homeowner when you're picking up your dog, or proud pet owner. That's part of it. As much as you love your pet, that's part of it too. So we all play these different roles, and those are simple roles. There's just one role to do it. In closing call, a closing call specialist or a closing call expert or master closing call has to play several roles, starting with what I call professional business owner. So you are a professional business owner, you're a local business owner. I'm okay with that too. You want to come off like you are a business person and you can handle a business call. So when you call them and you say, hi, I'm Brian Wolf, and you read the script and you say, I'm calling about your house for sale. Is it still for sale? But you're conducting yourself like a business person. You sound clear on the phone. There's not dogs and kids barking in the background. Yeah, kids barking, dogs barking, and kids hollering in the background. So that's, I want to make sure that you're coming off like a business professional. That's how you have to come off on that call, right when they pick up. First impressions are crucial, and you don't want to come off all salesy, and you don't want to come off soft. You want to come off like a confident business professional. Okay, so that would be one role, confident business professional, that you would play on the call. Then after you kind of ask a couple questions, is the house still for sale? Are you the one to talk to about the house? You ask them a couple questions, get a couple of yeses up front. According to neuro-linguistic programming, we want some yeses. Then we say, okay, what can you tell me about the house? And they start talking about the house. And then you get to the point where you say, and you may be building a little rapport there, but you're shifting here into what I call the friendly neighbor role. You're going to actually say, well, this sounds great. Well, now, just so you know a little bit about us, and that's the key line, just so you know a little bit about us. Remember, you're going to be asking them to sell you their house, leave the mortgage in their name for many, many years, and trust that you're going to make all their payments. And so there has to be some trust established here. And that's why it's important that you say, just so you know a little bit about us. We've been in the area. We've lived here for 30 years. I used to run a mortgage office downtown. My wife used to sell new homes for Shea Homes. Then back in 2003, we realized we could help sellers a lot more just by buying their house directly with no hassles. So we formed We Buy Houses LLC. And now our kids help us with the business. It's a great family business, and we've helped out so many local families. So that's kind of that's a little bit long, but that's sort of our longer version. You guys will have different versions, but you'll have a shorter version, a longer version, but that's where you turn into your friendly neighbor. And if you have a joke in there, if you can say a joke, like Lynette says this joke, she says, okay, my name is Lynette Wolf, Wolf like the animal, but I'm not an animal. you know, and they laugh, or she says wolf like the animal. Oh, now you're always going to remember me, right? You know, and so she has little things like that that make it even more friendly. But when you're in that friendly neighbor, you don't, your bio is the beginning of it. So you don't just say your bio like a professional and you whip through it and then you say, so now we buy and sell houses all around the area. Now, in terms of buying your house, give them some breathing room. Hopefully that's where you get to know them a little bit and you ask them a couple of questions about themselves, or something comes up when you're saying what you say. Oh, your kids, you know, and if you ever hear dogs or kids in the background and they're on their background, you're always going to ask, oh, I have a couple of kids myself, or, you know, some relate to them in some way. That is your opportunity to get them over skeptical seller. Now, most FSBOs who are selling their house by themselves, that they think that they are sharp enough to not have an agent on the deal and do everything themselves. So they think they're kind of a good negotiator or whatever. So they might be coming into this call. Whenever anybody's calling them, they're taking this role of skeptical seller. So they're coming at this like, who is this person? What are they saying? How much are they going to give me? You know, and that's kind of their mindset. And so that's why you got to knock them out of that with that knock them out of skeptical seller by playing friendly neighbor. So if you can get them to laugh or chuckle, or even you can hear them smiling over the phone, you've probably accomplished your goal of knocking them out of skeptical seller role and at least momentarily getting them into friendly neighbor role. Just for a minute, just for 30 seconds. And then a lot of times that will persist, so that they'll kind of stay in friendly neighbor even when you're negotiating the deal, when they should maybe have gone back into skeptical seller maybe. And that's when you switch into deal maker. So after you play friendly neighbor, then you say, so as I said, we buy and sell houses all around the area. And when we buy a distressed property, we pay cash. But when we buy a nice house like yours, we use monthly payments. Oh, excuse me. I got the doors open and the windows. It's so nice out here. I got a little allergy there. So guys, so you'll say at that point, you're shifting back into deal maker role. This is where you use those scripts that I talked about Friday. This is where you're making the deal happen. You're negotiating these tips. Now, you can, if you're comfortable in those roles of deal maker, sharp deal maker, and top negotiator, if you're comfortable in those roles, you can just pretty much read the script and be in a confident way, and you'll probably be fine. Some people are not so comfortable in those roles. They've never negotiated anything. They're not that comfortable as deal makers. And so there's other options. The two other options that I find to be the most helpful for our students are, number one, Good Shepherd. And number two, what would I call this? Usually I go with a good presenter or a confident presenter. You're basically presenting a script, aren't you? You're presenting an offer. And so if you just think about it, I'm a good presenter. You know, I can read over the material in advance. I can, you know, present it well. I can speak well. So if you want to just think about that section of the script as you're just being a good presenter, you have your script and you're just presenting it on the phone. So that's one way. If you don't feel like, well, I'm a great deal maker, you know, whatever, I can always just present the script in a confident way and in a professional way. Or, and this is one of my favorites, is Good Neighbor. And I mean, Good Shepherd. Good Shepherd is one where I sort of guide them through the process, and I'm a little kinder and gentler. Now, that has to be with the right customer. I mean, if that customer is some lawyer selling $1 million house, they don't want to be thought of as a sheep. Okay. But people don't sense this, you know, you're just helping them and you have a kind tone in your voice and you empathize with their situation. We had one lady where she needed a Good Shepherd so badly. Her husband had died. They weren't married. It was her partner or whatever, but they'd been together like 15 years and he passed away and he left her this house and the house needed a lot of work and she just needed somebody to come in. And this was one where Lynette started the deal and she said, Brian, I need you on this deal because this lady needs some help, emotional support. And so Good Shepherd gives emotional support. Deal Maker does not give emotional support. So that's why sometimes with some sellers, guys, the way you're going to get the deal is by giving emotional support and guiding them gently or as gently as you can through this difficult process of selling your house. It's scary and difficult, and people are scared of making a mistake, and you're going to make sure that everything goes great and it works out great for them. So that's the key, is to be able to play a wide range of roles. And then when you're finishing up, you're probably going to go back into business professional, smart business professional, and you're going to say, so I'll be coming over. You get to the deal, you're setting the appointment script. Okay, when you're in setting the appointment script, then you're back into professional, local professional business owner, and you're getting that appointment, and then you're going to fill out your paperwork. Then you have to go to paperwork nerd or paperwork professional and do the paperwork, because that's a different role. You're not playing deal maker when you're writing out your paperwork. So that's a different role altogether. That's why the whole business requires lots of different roles. And that's why sometimes it's challenging, because you kind of got to get good at several different things. If you feel like, oh, I'm not good at paperwork, develop that role, because that's important. Really, it's just one document. It's the purchase and sales agreement. If you're good at that, you're pretty much good at paperwork. Okay. So awesome. Lots to cover there. Playing the right role. Thank you, Tony. Hey, great to see you. Roger, good morning. Turning my, okay. All right, and good morning, Lucky, Mr. Brian. Yes, there are two mortgages with two different rates. How do you write paragraphs 2B and 1B? Okay, guys, if you're taking over two mortgages subject to, you're just going to write under 1G the entire subject to amount that you're taking over subject to, and you're not going to write anything in 2B. This is a very common mistake, that when you're taking over mortgages subject to, because that section 2B is talking about monthly payments, you think you need to fill that out. Do not fill that out. In fact, if you want to just edit that entire section out for when you're presenting the deal to the seller, I'm actually okay with that. So that has nothing to do with taking a mortgage subject to. So subject to, but now if you're taking it with seller financing and you're doing a wrap, where you're wrapping two mortgages together, that's a different thing. What I really want you to do is just take them both subject to. It's way easier, way easier, way less paperwork, way less hassles, not a lot of figuring out stuff. If you have to do it as a wrap and you have to combine the two mortgages, basically you would have to combine the amount and then combine the payment, okay, and then figure out what that interest rate is. Solve for interest rate. With this amount and this payment over 30 years, what is the interest rate? And then you'd have to write a new wrap mortgage that would wrap both of those and have one interest rate. And then the seller could foreclose on you with that mortgage. Now, it's always a note and a mortgage. The note has all the terms on it, has all the numbers on it. The mortgage just ties the note to the house and says, if you stop paying on the note, if you default on the note, we can take the house. That's what a mortgage is. Okay, so that was a really good question, guys, and I hope you understood what I just said there, because that was good. Okay, seller okay to cover $1,200 PIT. Okay. All right, guys, look, that's a pretty complicated question I see here. So are you saying if he only wants an $800 a month payment on a you're getting a house here for $50,000 of free equity, which is great. Considering if the house is not in too rough shape and there's no other weird factors here. They only owe $150, so you would have $180 that you would owe them on top of that, but they want a payment of $800 a month against that equity. If that's all they want, that's okay. I'm not sure. That one I would have to look at a little closer of how you're going to write that, because I can't believe that's the deal. You're not getting a $330,000 house for $800 a month. But you're saying seller okay to cover $1,200 PITI. Lucky, this may be the deal of your life. I'm not sure I understand entirely what you're saying here, but you know what? If you want to write me an email on this, guys, you know my email, wolfcouple@gmail.com. If you want to write me an email on it, I'll look at it and I'll write it up for you. Is anyone else seeing mostly agents that are selling FSBOs nowadays? I'm not seeing that, Roger, but that can be an area specific thing. But how can an agent be selling a FSBO? You know, I mean, if it's in, are you talking about on Zillow? If you're looking up Zillow or if you're looking up some kind of FSBO website, those are obviously not supposed to be agents. They're supposed to be for sale by owner. And now it can be an owner agent. So if it's an agent who is selling their own property that they own, that's a little bit different thing. But I have not seen that, so I'm not sure. Bless you, Roger. Okay, went to a gym yesterday with I Buy Houses. Guy told me he has a house. He said, he said he needs 425. Okay, looks good. That looks like a good one too. Lucky you're obviously out there getting deals and, you know, doing things. That's great. You're taking action. He needs 425, but he said he'd give you terms. So if he's going to give you terms, the first thing I'm looking at there is the PITI is 2050. How much rent can you get reasonably per month? Hopefully 2,500 plus. And, you know, find out what kind of lipstick it needs. That might be worth it to put 10 grand in. And then if the house is, you know, let's say it's worth 480, you could ask 499.9 if it's in good shape and maybe get like 50,000 down. So that would pay you right back for any little work that you put in. In fact, that's what I would ask on this property here. If it was in decent condition, I'd be asking 499.9. Now, if it's not in decent condition, you can sell it as a work for equity. So if he's giving it to you for 425, you could sell it for 449 and still have a spread and not do any work on it. And maybe get a really good buyer who can do the work. Because remember, you're offering monthly payments with bad credit. So that would be the other option, selling it on work for equity, doing no work, but you could make a lot more money if the work isn't too dramatic. If it's like 10 grand of cosmetic, I would do it. And then I ask 499.9 on this house. But remember, I'm guessing that you can get more than 2,500 because that would be what I would want to be getting monthly off that property. But yeah, that's another really good deal. Okay. Okay, yeah, and that's a wrap. So I explained how you got to do the wrap. You got to try to combine the two mortgages, figure out what the total is roughly, and then figure out what the monthly payment is. Back, you know, reverse engineer the interest rate and have your attorney, your title company write it up as a wrap. Okay. Wow. Okay. You got a good area. The houses are a little bit expensive there. You know, I favor an area. I mean, it's just a lot easier to buy a lot of houses faster if it's under 200,000. But if you've got flexible sellers like this, and you know what, you got some very flexible sellers in this upper price range right now because they are desperate and the buyers are not out there in those price ranges. So lucky, great deals. You know, send me an email. You guys know my email. And I will look at it and try to give you a little bit more guidance. Guys, these are really good tips. If you want to send me in, these are pretty complicated, actually. Lucky had some complicated stuff there. But if you guys have, you know, questions for me, that's why I'm here. So every Monday and Friday, right? And so today we're learning to be a great closing caller. So let's do that for our affirmation. Agent owner, yeah, okay, maybe Vegas. Okay, Vegas, maybe agent owners. Okay, all right, guys. So let's do an affirmation. I am a great closing caller. I am a master closing caller. All right, let's say that. I'm a master closing caller. 3 times on 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I am a master closing caller. I am a master closing caller. I am a master closing caller. Now, when should you say that? Right before you make your calls. With lots of enthusiasm. Motion creates emotion. Okay, 3 deep breaths. Oh, that feels good. Another deep breath. Fill those lungs really full. And one more. Oh, that's good for your body and your mind. All right, guys, great. I will see you on Friday. Keep expecting success, getting awesome training from the Wolf Couple and taking action. And if you want me to focus on any specific winning roles, let me know. All right, I will be talking to you guys on Friday.